supports it. Joining me now is Democratic Congressman Krishnamoorthi. Congressman, thank you so much for coming to talk to us about this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brianna.
There are some Democrats who are trying to make a distinction. They say that there's a difference in supporting an impeachment inquiry, which, as I understand, you support,
yes,
versus supporting the full impeachment process. But do you really think that Americans make a distinction?
Well, thanks for having me on. You know, when I was home for this summer recess, I thought that people really understood the difference, and they actually want an investigation to happen and expose wrongdoing. For instance, when they see the president, profiting off of government taxpayer dollars, for instance, with the military potentially having members of the military stay at his resorts, that's just something that really bothers people. Even at the same time, they want us to do their business, such as trying to lower prescription drug prices or enacting common sense gun control measures.
Do you think that an impeachment inquiry inevitably leads to impeachment?
No, not necessarily. I think that the impeachment inquiry is meant to surface as much evidence as possible so that we can make an informed decision. And therefore, I think it's only appropriate that the committee have the powers to do so right now.
The majority of Americans don't support impeaching the president. What do you say to opponents of Trump's who fear that impeachment, and knowing that you know this, there are many people who do not make the distinction. If you move forward with an impeachment inquiry, the president will highlight that as impeachment. These critics of Trump say, look, you do that and you're actually going to help get him reelected. What do you say to those folks?
Well, I say the people that I speak with actually understand the difference, but in any case, this is the right thing to do. This is something that I struggled with in terms of whether to move forward with an impeachment inquiry, but the evidence of wrongdoing was so staggering that we had to, at least I decided I had to support a formal impeachment investigation or inquiry to basically determine whether or not there's evidence to support an impeachment process beyond that.
The House Intel Committee, which you sit on, is
Yes,
now commanding that Michael Flynn appear before Congress later this month, accusing him of ignoring its subpoena. What do you want to learn from him?
Well, as you know, Michael Flynn was not only a part of the Trump campaign, but he was also part of the Trump transition period. And he has a lot of information with regard to a number of issues. For instance, what are the counterintelligence risks associated with the linkages between Trump campaign officials and Russia? You know, one of the things that has been unanswered in this whole Mueller investigation is, even if those linkages did not amount to criminal conspiracy, did they present risks? Was there information involved that, if it was exposed, would embarrass parties here or officials of the administration if the Russians were to try to use it to their advantage and leverage or exploit that information?
You are also on the Oversight Committee. The committee
Yes,
is looking into increased military spending at the president's Turnberry Resort in Scotland, and now the Air Force says that it's looking into all international layover stays after controversial visits there by service members. How big of a deal is this?
It's a big deal for two reasons. One, the Constitution, and specifically what's called the Domestic Emoluments Clause, prohibits the president from benefiting financially from the federal government aside from his salary, okay? So he's not allowed to take any compensation apart from his salary. However, if the military is spending money at these resorts for layovers for their service people, that money goes into the pockets of the Trump organization. And as you know, the Trump president has not divested himself of the assets of the Trump organization. So that's
even
a big
to
problem.
you, even if this is a cheaper option, which is what the Air Force says, that stands, this is still a problem as you see it.
Oh, absolutely. It's constitutionally a problem, but it's also an appearance problem. The military is one of the most respected organizations in America, as it should be. When this type of appearance of a conflict of interest or an actual conflict of interest exists, it in part tarnishes that respect that we have for the military, and that's something that we have to hold in very, very high regard.
Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, thank you so much for joining.